just what goes into creating a product that someone's going to pull off a shelf. For many creators, it's all about what's inside the product. But as Laura Feavearyear, who is a product packaging queen, will tell you, it is so much more. I'm your host, Rachel Klaver, and this is Map It Marketing, a podcast designed for those of you in small businesses who need to market your business better. And Laura's going to come with us today and talk to us about the important steps that you've got to think about when you're considering putting your product on a shelf in a supermarket or somewhere beyond. She's going to cover what it takes to get a great packaging design, all the things you need to think about, and how long it takes. It took a lot longer than I expected. So come along, listen to all her wisdom, and find out just what goes into that journey between markets where you're selling directly and getting into supermarkets. This is about how to get people to pick your product with product packaging queen, Laura Feavearyear. Welcome, this is Map It Marketing and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. Hi and welcome to Map It Marketing. I'm your host, Rachel Klaver, and today we've got Laura. And oh my gosh, Laura, I just realized there was something I was going to ask you, which is very important. Can you please tell me how to pronounce your surname?
Sure, it's Feavearyear.
Cool, because I was going to say Feavearyear.
So you were close.
And then I was like, I knew there was something I was going to ask you. So it's Laura Feavearyear, and she is the creative director of Creative Jam. I'm going to make sure that's really clear. I am really excited about having Laura on here because her work is beautiful, and I love beautiful things. But before she jumps in and introduces herself, this is episode 98. We're almost at 100, which is incredible for someone with ADHD who's not very good at sticking to things. So I'm super excited about that. And the reason I chose Laura to come and talk with you is besides the fact that I really love what she does, and she's got a really amazing style in the way that she does packaging, is that I know that for so many small business owners, they understand the importance of packaging, but often it's like, can I afford to invest in it? Is it worthwhile? And I really wanted Laura to be able to come and talk about what the impact of great packaging could be as someone who's just insanely good at it. So, Laura, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Oh, no worries. Thank you very much for having me.
That's exciting. Now, do you want to tell everyone just a little bit about yourself and Creative Jam? I know that you might babble on. That's okay. We both will babble. But just brain dump, yeah. Laura and Creative.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I've been a designer for about 13 years now, which is a scary thought. I was actually born with a rare eye condition called coloboma. And it is where your eye doesn't form properly. So I am short-sighted. I was told at birth that I was blind, but am not blind. I can tell you that right now. But I always had a creative streak in me right from age 4. I won my first colouring competition through Farmers. I won a set to be super exciting.
I always lost those. Got very distracted with.
And so it's always been my passion. I spent a bit of time overseas and decided to come back, and I went to go and study advertising at media design school, which I loved. Came out of that and it was a recession. And so I was like, I think I might just go back and do another diploma because I'm super swotty. And I went and studied graphic design. It was the best thing I ever did. And that just opened up so many doors and so many things for me, for possibilities of what I actually wanted to do with this creativity, because now I could earn money with this thing that I really enjoyed. And I have on a similar path that was kind of had no alignment until that point, was that I had always loved packaging and perfume bottles in particular. I'd started collecting them when I was about 8 years old, and I think I've got about 50 or so now. And
how to spot a neurodiverse person on a
and I was there was some kind of weird alignment, and I sort of started working for my first job out of university was working for New World, at the supermarkets. And then I started working for the aromatherapy company.
I love that. So you did their packaging.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of the early stuff on was is my design. But the thing that to show you just how much I really loved packaging was that I lived in West Auckland, and aromatherapy company was in Te Pāpapa, which is out by Mount Smart Stadium. And I don't drive, so I was getting up really early in the morning, getting on a ferry, getting on a train, and then walking 20 minutes to get to my job, and doing the same in the evening coming home. Because that's what I felt like I needed to dedicate to be actually to do the work. And that's been the theme throughout my whole career is put the hard work in and do the effort, because when you're doing something that you really love, it doesn't feel like work. And that's really that started the love of packaging. And I've had various jobs in design since then. I found it really difficult to get a full-time role because of my visual impairment. People were like, "What? You're a designer? How can you do it if you can't see very well?" Which is, I don't hold that against people. That's just, it's just misunderstanding and not knowing and some ignorance. But anyway, and so I started my own business because I thought, well, I've got lots of people in my family that have been around business their whole life. My dad's been in business his whole life, and he helped me set it up. And I started getting a portfolio that then I could take to people and just say, here's the work. And the very first big client that I had was Oob Organic. If you don't know them,
Yes.
They do frozen berries.
Yes,
and
I've got some in my freezer.
Yes, so do I. And I started like doing all of their marketing materials and a little bit of packaging, and then got on to doing Dr. Feelgood,
which I also adore, and also have some of these in my freezer as well. This is a bit of a stalking of your packaging.
Yeah, well, currently, to date, at the moment, there are 15 brands which I have designed, which are in New Zealand and Australia.
That's awesome. Do you love that at the supermarket? Do you get because the thing is, like, a lot of graphic designers, if they were doing a logo or something like that, if they had a retail store, it might be somewhere far away from them, but you can literally go and see your work every time you go to the supermarket.
Yeah, and I am the world's biggest merchandiser as well. Like, if I see my clients packaging and one's been knocked down, I will stop and put it up, or like hide competitors stuff behind my clients. Don't tell New World I do that.
No, I totally get that. When I had my book with Penguin that was actually stocked in a shop as opposed to the one I did recently, when I was at shops, if it was like hidden behind anyone else's, I'd go and I'd put it like in front of the bestseller one and stuff. I think that's important. You gotta rate your own work, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And then it's just kind of spiraled from there. Dr. Feelgood was I was at Best Awards in 2015, which is
amazing.
Which is hard to do when you're a single designer. You're not an agency. So I take that as a big compliment. But probably the biggest compliment I've had in my career was when I noticed Libby Matthews, who was eating a Dr. Feelgood ice block on her Instagram. I messaged her and I said, I hope you really like the ice block. I designed it. And she said, oh, that's great. I'm about to start a brand and I'm looking for a designer. Would you be interested in...
I know this is going. I wonder if everyone else does.
Would you be interested in showing me your work and having a chat? And I said, absolutely, I would love to. And that is how Dose & Co. was born.
And a lot of people know Dose & Co. I mean, not just in New Zealand, it's internationally.
It's very big brand.
So it's affiliated in some way, I think, with Zero.
Yeah, so Zero are affiliated with them.
Yes, that big marketing push, which can push it out. But I would be surprised if people hadn't seen that packaging somewhere in the supermarket, or somewhere around, even in commerce, I think. Very well-known brand.
Yeah, or if you're a Kardashian, you've got to.
Yeah, if you're a Kardashian, you might have to too. Probably not the Dr. Feelgood ice block, but definitely the dosing. Yeah. So
it really just goes to show, like, if you see an opportunity, like, don't be afraid to message someone and just be like, hey, I'd love to work with you, or here's I hope you enjoy that, because I think you just don't really know where it can go and what have you got to lose. It's just a message.
I really love that. I don't know if I've told this story, and I sometimes feel a bit nervous because I don't want poor editors to be harassed, but
that's how I got my first book contract with Penguin, because I'd been turned down by Random House. I wasn't famous enough to do a book with someone, and I was annoyed. So I sent an email with 3 typos in it to the chief editor of Penguin. And I don't know what I thought it was a great email, except for the typos. But he came back and I got 3 book contracts out of it. And
that's cool.
it was me going, I don't have an ego. I don't care if my name's on it. I just want to write books.
Yeah.
And they all had my names on them.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And it totally changed the whole line of my life. But it came from being cheeky. And I think you do need to be cheeky.
Yeah, you do.
Sometimes.
Yeah. You do, especially when it comes to, I mean, that's a great segue really into product business, and that New Zealand is a wonderful place to launch a product. We are very receptive to trying new things and new products, and so I think that is a really good thing, particularly if you want to, we're a bunch of innovators too, and that's what gets me really excited about working in the FMCG space, is that there's a lot of opportunity for new products here, but you just have to understand that it's not easy. It may look easy. Dose & Co is a unicorn brand. It's very difficult to get to that state. But if you just have to do the door knocking, do the markets,
100% do the markets. I think
100%. Yeah.
I've had the session before on here about Pepper and me, and that she now has all the staff, but she started at markets selling on a duvet. A lot of the clients I've worked with who've now got brands across in New Zealand or across the world, they started selling at a table in a market.
Yeah, it is the best way. It is the best path. I like to call it like farmers market to foodstuffs. And that is the best way that you can get it's a good way to test your product too, because when you start at a market, or you start, even if you just want to start on e-commerce, what it's going to do is it's going to test your product. And you're going to get, by the time you get to the point where you've got the backing of a whole bunch of customers, you've got the sales and the social proof, which is important. You will have refined your packaging enough so that these big retailers will just go, yep, cool. Hopefully they'll go, yep, cool. I'd like you to be in the stores. So there's a big leap, there's a huge leap between big farmers markets and foodies. Huge.
Yeah. And it's not just the manufacturing and the scaling and making sure that your headspace is around reduced margins, and because all of that stuff is huge, but it is also making sure that the product is one that is going to pop out of the shelves. And I do want to talk to you about that, but can I just go back? I hope you don't mind me asking about it. But I do think, because you mentioned that you've got that rare eye condition, and I know that has affected your sight, and I'm glad that you kind of explained why design. But you said that someone had said, a few people had said, why would we employ you? But I know that we talked before, and you explained how it's actually helped you be better at packaging. Do you want to run through how that has helped? Because I do think your designs do stand out for this reason.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me be minimalistic. There's not anything in my designs that is doesn't have a purpose. And because I've been able to call a lot on the other senses and a little bit more of an emotional pull, and that's sort of how it can work really well to my advantage, because I'm like, how's this packaging going to make somebody feel? How's this packaging going to evoke some sort of emotion, which is very important as a marketer, into people's purchasing, into people's, what's the word I'm looking for? Their reasons for buying, and so yes, the visual impairment for me has also in my own life been a massive thing, and actually just being really determined to do what I wanted it to do. There's a lot of people out there who don't fit into the categories of having what we would call a severe physical diversity, or people that might just, need to wear glasses. There's a large amount of us in the middle who are doing okay with life, but had some obstacles to get through, right? And so for me, I've always had it in my heart that those are the people that I represent. doing what I love, and and killing it. Like, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, no, you are killing it. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important too, because if you're someone who's completely able-bodied, it can be so easy to, did I use the right word? Is that okay? Able-bodied? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
just kidding.
Yeah.
You know how you get to the, like, I'm 50 and I'm going, I think, is any of my words out of date? But you get someone who's like that. And I definitely wouldn't consider myself that, because, without these glasses, I've got like the worst astigmatism. So I'm pretty blind. But like, able-bodied, but essentially healthy. And I go, often we get so like, oh, we can't do this and stuff. And I've always used other people who've got a disability who've pushed through and go, look, if that person can do it when they're having to deal with this thing every day, I can freaking get up and just, like, I literally use, I don't know if that's a good thing, but I do use other people that have pushed through, that have had a harder block in front of me, to sometimes activate me and go, stop moaning, stop pushing through. They have got to wear this every day.
Yeah.
You can cope for one day.
Yeah, it is like that. And that's what I want for people in a very positive way, is to understand that, yeah, look, everyone has their thing to carry, right? Everybody's got their baggage that they pick up and carry around and they go everywhere with, whether it's physical or mental. And it's really just about how you use it. I've never really been a fan of the word disability, because to me that's a very negative connotation. It's like you dis an ability.
Yeah, so I really like the way you said that. I've got a friend, Deb, who always pulls apart words, and she's always going, what you're actually saying is this when you're like, oh gosh, she always says, like, pick your brain. She said, I always have a picture of a crow coming in and picking someone's brain. And I'm like, oh yeah, that isn't a good saying. And I love, you're right, disability. It's also, I also think sometimes with people that do have barriers, a lot of people then jump in and go, oh, it's your superpower. And I also don't like that, because
No.
superpowers are all good and it can still be a barrier.
Oh, it absolutely can. And there are certain times and things that, like, the fact that I can't drive is a massive one.
Yeah, it's huge.
I have a 3-year-old son, and for the first couple of years, I had to sit and see my friends all meet up with their little kids, or take their kids swimming, or take their kids somewhere. And because my son was, so little, it was difficult to put a car seat in a taxi, and then what do I do with the car seat at the other end, and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff, and particularly around becoming a mum has been really hard for me. But I've always, sort of tried to find my own way of actually, of doing things as well. And now I've got a regular taxi driver who's happy for me to take my son in the car. And so we go on bus adventures and stuff that's actually more fun than just, I don't know, no offense to coffee groups. I
understand that, because I think you can, like, that's the thing, is that sometimes a block, that's something that you could have looked at and gone, I'm missing out on that, leads to this other thing that becomes a more beautiful experience as well.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that's also, you're good with these segues, I must say. Is that it's the same thing when you bring it into product businesses. The first product that you actually come up with and may not be the winner.
No, quite often isn't. I have had this experience.
Yeah, right. And so the third product, like a lot of the products that I work with, I mean, Dose & Co was a good 6 months, and then I've had products which I've been working on for nearly a year now. So don't be in a rush. If somebody says to you, oh, I know this category manager and New World, and they've got a new intake of products in 3 months, and you go, oh, okay, I've got to have everything's got to be perfect by that point. No, it doesn't, because that is not your only opportunity.
No, and they'll often too. People often go, "Oh, I've been said, someone said no to me for New World or something like that," and they'll be like, "So I'm out." And I'm like, "Well, no, you can go back. You can go back with a fresh take. You can go back. You can do some things that needed to change and go back and repitch.
Yep,
don't
absolutely.
miss it the first time."
Yep.
And often they're saying no because they can see a flaw. They can see, are you going to be able to, is the product shelf stable for a long enough period?
Yeah, I mean, does your product actually fit on a shelf? Because there are conversations around that.
Yeah. Does it
and,
fit a category that people actually go to, or is it in an odd space? And we're not, so like, is it something that normally is on a shelf, but it's yours is in a refrigerator and no one knows to find it there because they always go to a shelf, or vice versa? Like, I know that, like, I worked with a business about 4 or 5 years ago, and they had a shelf stable type of, I think it was milk. And the problem was no one wanted to buy that milk off the shelf. They wanted to buy it chilled.
Yeah.
Because they didn't trust it. So they had to put it in the chilled section, which kind of defeated the purpose. And it's all that sort of thing. So the design is a huge part of it.
Oh,
but
100%.
there's so many reasons that you'll get pushed back.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if they can spot, if you haven't done your due diligence, I can't stand that word.
I've got that one.
Diligence.
My one is I can't even say compartmentalize. I can't even say the word.
Oh, compartmentalize.
Yes, compartmentalize. I cannot say that word. I just proved it.
If you don't do your stuff, if you don't do that, then they'll spot that, because you have to remember that these people see a million of you. You know, to a category manager, the thing that you have to remember, if you're a product person right now and you're about to go and go and meet with a category manager, remember this one thing: you are not special to them. You are not. You are just another product, another person who is essentially going to make the supermarkets money. And to the point, that's what they care about. So as long as you go in with a feeling of knowing that you're not special, that you have something really cool to offer, and just know that if they say no, it's not a personal thing. It's just that right now that's not. It's like going on a date.
It is very much like a date. Yeah, you've got to fight. You equally need you also on a date. I always say it's like, it's not just, will they like you? Do you like them? And sometimes you go and do that thing. I know several of my clients who went and did the thing, going to Foodstuffs or whichever one they went to, and going in and then going, hang on a minute, I don't want to do this. This isn't I thought this is what I wanted, but I actually just want to have this style. Yeah. You're allowed to do that as well. Like,
you definitely are.
It's not an option.
And there's so many other awesome small retailers who are really important. And obviously you've got Faro, you've got Huckleberry, you've got Good For, there's so many. And then you also have e-commerce too. Like D2C is also really important for your business. So, and it might just be, it might be not a no never, it's just a no not right now for big retail. And maybe that's actually just the universe, if you believe in that kind of a thing, just telling you that actually you've got more work to do.
I think that's really true. Like, I do think that no's are often not like a no. They can just be like why was there a no? It's kind of like, like, what was it that was the no? Where is the block? Because I often have that too when I'm trying to do something and I can't get myself to it. And I used to blame it on laziness, and then I blamed it on my ADHD. But now I've worked out it's often that there's a block in some of the process that I haven't unlocked, or the reason why. And that's what's stopping me from acting. And so now I know I'm got better at going, what's the actual block? And sometimes it's that the offer's not right. So the reason I can't dredge up enthusiasm for it is because I don't want to tell people about it. So I've got to fix that. And I think that is a really, like, people think that the end goal is to get into the supermarket, or might be to get the meeting with the people in the supermarket. Yeah. But that's not the end goal. That might just be part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's if you don't get into New Zealand, there's all sorts of great programs. There's a program called, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it now, but I will give a link to people if they're interested. Is that there's a company who helps people get into Woolworths in Australia.
Oh yeah, I know that company too, but I can't remember their name. I've actually got a client that I worked with in Christchurch about 4 or 5 years ago, John's Bakery. Now they sell here in New Zealand a little bit, mainly white labeled, but they're huge in Australia. Like, they send pallets and pallets and pallets, big, not even containers on a regular basis. Huge factory, but you don't really know their brand well here.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? It is very much like that. Look, even if we talk really small right now and we go, okay, so you didn't get a spot at the Parnell markets, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to get a spot at the Coatesville markets. It's all about just going, and because there are so many no's in all forms of business, but particularly in product, because we are a saturated market. And there are a few industries which are like that. And, you know, we've got alcohol, craft alcohol is a big one. Healthcare is a big one. And the non-alcoholic market, which is also another big one, and beauty. So those are like
beauty is a big one. And relate to beauty, candles.
Candles.
But I agree, like there are particular markets that are really saturated, and then there's of course ones, you know, I did a podcast with Debbie from Vince, and there's other ones where there's supply issues, you know, like you get a supply issue and then that can make things hard as well. And so absolutely. You know, like it is, I think that people, there is a drive. I understand that drive to want to have a product that you've created and done. I've done it myself, and there's something amazing about it. But I think that you have to be a really special person to push through it, because there are so many little breaks. You know, even a market, you could spend the whole time going there, putting your stuff out, and you might only sell $30 worth of product that day because the day was off. It wasn't anything to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, so can I ask a question actually?
Oh.
Because when we're talking about the farmers markets, this is what I want to ask you before I diverted you with with your benefits and drawbacks of having your eye condition. When you talk about farmers markets, and obviously when you're starting out, it's unlikely, if you're doing a farmers market and you're kind of testing something, that you're going to come and get asked to work with you, because for a start, they wouldn't have like a really clear point of concept. They probably wouldn't have a clear range. So you would have to do some of that stuff, and you could do that with them. But what stage does it come from? I've started a stall at Farmers Market. People love my products. I did a dinky little thing on the computer with Canva. Or I got I got a $99, what are those, 99 designs or something like that, and I got that on, or whatever it is. But I know that that's not going to take it to where I need it to go, which is to get into all the Health 2000s or all the supermarkets or export. What is the point, do you think, that people should go, I need to invest in design?
Sure. Okay. So the first thing is that I have nothing against people who are just starting out, who want to do a little bit of DIY to begin with.
Yeah.
There is definitely a need. Starting a product is a massive investment. Even outside the branding side of things, there are two other main, obviously really big things, and that is the actual manufacture of the product itself, and then the you know, the sourcing of the packaging and things. So there are some really big things which come with just starting out. So kudos to anyone at the moment who is just starting out in the farmers market kind of style. Like, good on you for giving it a go. So let's say you're 6 months in, and you've been to a farmers market every weekend for the past 6 months. People are really into your product. Say you're selling, let's go peanut butter, because that's what I put some in my smoothie this morning. So that's
so did I picked, which I got first from a Takapuna market, like just when it first launched. That's how they started.
It is. Fix and fog. Great example.
Fix and fog. We have, my issue is which peanut butter to choose.
Oh, me too. I buy 4 at a time. So I can try different ones.
I have quite a lot of different peanut butters.
So let's say that's you, and you've got this amazing peanut butter, and people are really receptive to it. They're loving it. They're buying it. They're saying, where are you stocked? This is your first indicator that you're at a point where you need to grow, right? When people are saying to you, where are you stocked? What stores are you in? Where can I buy your product? This should be the first little telltale sign that lets you go, okay, now's the time that maybe I need to invest in actually making this thing a legit full-time business. And at that point, that's a really good time to come and have a chat with me. Because that's what will happen. And this is a little bit of kind of going into the process that I work with.
I'd love to know the process.
is that I love to sit and talk to people about their products. So the very first thing that I do with people is have about an hour Zoom call, and I ask about the journey. Where did you start? How did you come up with this? Where do you see yourself going? And sometimes that can be a little bit unclear to begin with, because, you know, a lot of people don't really know. They just get told, like we've been talking about, that retail is the end game. But what I really want to do in that hour is just kind of assess, you know, who are the people that have been buying your product for that 6 months? You know, is it families?
Yeah.
Is it you know, people in their 20s? Is we just try and work out who your target market is.
I can imagine that's a bit of a nightmare. I mean, I do it with clients all the time, and they always go, you know, well, pretty much everyone. And it's like, I know it's not everyone.
No.
You know, I know that's not true, but
Yeah.
they often have quite a skewed, don't often have a really clear idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And the farmers markets, and or say your virtual farmers market, if you're one of these people who started an online business and just is selling in their local community over Facebook or something like that, is to be really aware of who is buying your product. And I know that can be really difficult on a busy day, or a day where you sort of, you know, you've got 10 orders to pack for online. But if you can just maybe sit down after a market, or once a week if you're e-commerce, and just sit down and really think and reflect on who it is that came to your stall. Talk to people. I mean, you know, what kind of if you can't remember their faces, then just kind of think about, what did you talk to them about? You know, did you say, oh, you know, oh, yep, you go to the gym. Okay, yes, so do I. You know, do you end up talking like a child a lot because there are lots of kids around that come and buy your product? There's various different ways that you can figure out your target market, and that's a really important building block in the step from the farmers market to foodstuffs.
So because I'm loving this, because it's hitting like a pain point for me when I'm talking to people. And I love that you've said that, because it's such good feedback. I was thinking that one of the things I think blocks small businesses is they are really worried about the outlier. So they'll have like 80% people who are a woman in their 40s coming and buying them, but then they'll have a random 30-year-old male gym goer who comes along, and they'll go, but I don't want that person to not buy my product. So I need to mention that person, instead of trusting that if you're focusing on this group, you will always get outliers. I get outliers too, people who are not my target market, who want to work with me. It doesn't matter. You don't go, I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to buy my products. But you have to focus on that kind of, this is where marketing is a bit painful, because you kind of have to work on that generalization. Like I always say, you know, as a person, I'm not sexist, racist, but as a marketer, I have to be a little bit like gender specific, race specific. And it's not like I'm going to say on my packaging anything, but I should be able to say, hey, actually, this is what my packaging is attracting, or my products attracting.
Absolutely. And look, my business is a really good example of that, and that I'm a designer. I could design a logo for a building company. I could design a book for, in fact, I have two property investors as clients, and a couple of other things who I do as well. I don't talk about them on my Instagram, but
why would you? That would be a bad idea. Yeah. And so you're just gold, because the other thing I say, my bugbear, when you go to a page, and like, I was just actually saying this to one of my coaching clients the other week, was that, you know, she talks to this particular market, but the testimonial on her page is a completely different market. And I'm like, don't put that testimonial on there, because your target market are going to read that and go, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Your testimonials or proof of your work has to be the people that you want to have more of.
And when I niched down into working with just FMCG, that is when my business exploded. I have niched. I've been doing packaging throughout my career, but I niched down just before COVID, actually. So technically a COVID business, and that I niched down specifically to do FMCG. I was like, this is what I want. This is what I'm good at. And since then, I've gone from it being just me. I now have a virtual assistant. I have two contract designers, and my profits have increased somewhat, a lot. And now I have at the point where I've got people who I don't even know who are recommending me because they know that that is what I'm good at. So if you want to be the overlord of peanut butter, unfortunately, that title may have been taken in New Zealand, just saying. But if you want to be the next big thing in peanut butter, then that's the person that you have to be. And if you are going to be, if you're going to make a peanut butter that is, high in protein, then who are the people that are going to want that? And then you go and you specifically talk to those people and you say, hey, this is me. I live, I breathe, I eat, I poop, I sleep, I dream peanut butter. That's high in protein. And if you are not somebody that's interested in high in protein, but you love the taste of it, great, come along, come and buy my product.
Yes, this is so good. Well, I'm just saying that my children, if I say that it's high in protein, they merely don't take it because they go, is it going to be like your protein bars? I'm like, no, it tastes good. And then they'll go, we don't trust you. Your taste buds have changed. We're not going to even test it.
Yeah, I get that too at home with some like the healthy baking that I do.
Yeah, healthy baking. The healthy baking isn't as popular with everybody else as it is with me.
No, same.
Okay, so you get them, you listen to the journey, you really want to know, be really aware of who is buying, and you do that full hour. Is there anything else you cover in that hour? Is that I mean, that's a lot.
There is. There are a couple of things that we have. I have a little bit of a real talk, and that one thing I never do in my things is I never ask people what their budget is, because for me, I assume that if they've started a product business, they're 6 months to a year in, or even if they've just started, I assume that they know that this is going to not cost them money. I don't like really using that term, that this is going to be a big investment. Yeah. This is a big investment into your life. And so that's why I don't specifically ask people what their budgets are. I also don't have a specific package that I offer to people. Everything is different because everyone's needs are different in this space. So we have a little bit of chat around that. And then we also have a little bit of chat around timings.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people also will go, okay, I want to launch in 3 to 4 months. And I say, that's great. And it's cool that you're really keen. But there are a lot of things which can hold you up. So we can work to that for sure. But understand that if you are ordering packaging out of China, if you are bringing in supplies for your goods overseas, if you are needing to do shelf life testing, which is another a part of the conversation, which I'll move on to next, is that it's all going to take you time, and you don't want to rush this. So expect that the process from going from your current small business to being retail ready, which is essentially what I offer people, is that it could take you 6 months. It could take you a year.
Or even longer. Like I think about, the thing around ordering from China. Like I know people who decided that they didn't want to wait to get the proof because they were like, I'll just trust it. And then they get it and it's not on the level of like the cardstock's too thin, or it's the slightly wrong size. And if they paid for the proof, which is expensive, it feels expensive to pay for it because it's like, whoa, just for that one bit, But if you don't pay for the proof and check it, and it is amazing how often you don't notice a typo until it's
even as a designer.
I have one of my books, Mountain Men, which is like really old now, like I think came out of 2007. It's got a typo in the first paragraph of the first page. And it went through 2 edits by me, which, to be fair, I've got ADHD, so not that great. But three other editors plus a couple of other readers. And it was because it was form, not from.
Yeah.
And
it's proofing fatigue. Yeah. Proofing fatigue. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
I get the book, open it up and go, oh, shit. Immediately could see it, but couldn't see it in any of the proofs that came out. Like it's not until in the book.
Yeah. And here's a little really good tip for people around proofs.
Yeah.
If you are ordering packaging proofs, use those for your photography, right? Because the big thing is that if you order your proofs as if they are the real product, and it doesn't matter if you make a couple of tweaks to something afterwards, as long as it's 90% likeness, then go, okay, yep, I know the things which I need to do. So now will I wait 6 to 8 weeks for shipping? Or if you're getting, some people choose to do some air freight and sea freight, sea freight takes
Running.
8 weeks.
Yeah, 8 weeks sounds good for the budget.
Yeah, and so while you're waiting for that, that's the time when in the process when we go, okay, now let's knuckle down social, let's knuckle down your website, let's do the photo shoot for the product, so that when everything hits the border, you're ready to go. So the proofs are really important from a perspective of checking that everything works in your product. Also, your food technologist is probably going to want to take a look at those in person and do some testing in the product itself. And that's obviously shelf life testing is a big thing. So make sure that you get your proofs. The 90% doesn't matter if there's a mistake on your proof somewhere, as long as it's not on the front. Use that for your photography.
I love that idea. And actually, what I'm really enjoying about this, Laura, is to be honest, you would have given me enough value just with the fact that you're awesome at your design, but this is just absolute gold in terms of that understanding that process, because I do think that people also tend to, I'm going to use that compartmentalize. Okay, so I think it's the I get confused. So compartmentalize. They tend to go, oh, the design will only take 2 weeks, and but it doesn't, because there's all this kind of I feel I can give a designer a really good brief, exactly what I want, and they will give back to me exactly what I wanted, and then I'll go, that was completely wrong. What was I thinking?
Yeah, as a designer, you become somewhat of a visual interpreter, because a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I just don't have a creative bone in my body. This is not my strong point. This is why I need to come to you. Even if they come with some idea, then what we do is, Pinterest is a beautiful thing. We do a lot of mood boarding. It helps me to see what's inside your head, because a lot of people actually in their brains will know what they like and know what they want. They just don't know how to visualize it. And that's my job.
Can I ask a question about that? Because there is a thing too that it's okay if you're the same target market, but it can be quite hard if you're a non-designer to slot yourself into the interest and attraction that someone might have for your product if your target market isn't you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
yeah, for
the
sure.
owner, like they might go, oh, I really love like natural tones, minimalist, because my whole house is like that. But actually they might be doing something that is like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the cocktails you did.
Good Cocktail Co.
Yeah, Good Cocktail Co. Yeah, those ones. I can see the packaging behind. But like they're really bright, vivacious, minimalistic, like pared back color would not suit that.
No.
Not saying that she did that. Like I know she wouldn't, because I've met her. But like that would be, to me, is that sometimes a block too, where people go, here's my taste, and I need the thing to be my taste, but it's not a match for the brand.
Yeah, and for me, what I've become, I feel kind of good at is understanding the categories and knowing, quite often I will go and stand in a supermarket when I get into a category that I don't know very well, and there aren't many left now, but even the ones that I do, I will go and stand in a supermarket and I will say, what's missing?
Yeah.
It's not here. Is there a good reason for that? Is there a bad reason for that? And if someone came to me and said, I want to do a kid's snack and I want to do it Scandi, I would go, okay. So
there's quite a few that already do that, like the popcorn. Like I immediately knew the popcorn one, because it definitely is. Yeah.
So if you go and you look and you're like, okay, has someone already done that? Have they done it well? Could we do it again? Or is it a no-go? For example, here's a really interesting thing for you, in that if you want to do a shampoo brand that's pink, you want to go into foodstuffs,
there's so many of them.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And for a couple of reasons, with large players in the market who have already got that color.
I actually can see, I know, I can't remember their brand, but I can actually literally see the packaging that's pink. There's several brands that do it.
Yes.
And you know that's the color that they're reaching for. Yeah.
Yeah. And this comes into the thing, like as a designer that you learn, but as a product person that you need to learn as well, is not to fall in love with an idea. And that is, okay, so pink may be your favorite color. And that's great, because it's important that we inject you and your personality into the products that you design. But let's look at something else which might still make you feel really good. Maybe it's just a hint of pink on the packaging.
Well, it could be the background of the photo.
Exactly. Yeah, so
Like
there's
you could have
certainly
pink backgrounds on your website.
yeah. So there's certain ways that you can still inject your favorite color, your thing and your theme, your vibe into the packaging, and that's super important for me, is to make sure that you feel like you're actually, you know, your personality is actually in on this, right? Because it's much easier to sell if you feel like it's actually part of you, it's an extension of you. But if I feel very strongly about something, and this is probably the difference between just going to 99 Designs and working with a proper professional, is if I know, if I can draw on my experience, and if I can actually say to you, I don't feel like that's a good idea. I'm just not going to say to you, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm going to give you a solution, and I'm going to give you a reason why. I don't think it's a good idea that we do pink shampoo, because if you go and stand in New World tomorrow and you look at that aisle, tell me how many pink brands you see. Now, tell me how many peach skincare brands do you see? Is peach represented in there? No, it's not. Okay, great. Let's do peach, you know, and then I'm going to just do the concept, and I'm going to show you, and I take a photo of the skincare aisle, and I'm going to put your concept in there. Now tell me who stands out. You know, so it's all about, just if you work with it, I realize that there's a stigmatism between spending a lot of investment and a lot of money on working with somebody but like myself, but the outcome, you know, that I provide to people is to be ready for retail, because I'm experienced in it and that's what I do. But, you know, it's such a, it is, and I completely, and if someone came to me and they do, and people say, I say, this is my package deal that I offer you. If you're not ready for that, that's totally okay. And I always say to people, the door's open. If you want to just come and talk to me about something, please do, because my whole reason for being outside of my you know, my family, my son and my husband and my life, is that I can see people get to product success, and that's what makes me feel alive.
It's interesting because Annalise from Tiki Taboo's on, she comes out, her episode comes out a few weeks before yours, and she's similar in terms of helping brands, like artistic brands, come in and create products. Like it's a, and I love that you've got that same passion. I love that I've got both of you kind of quite close to each other. Can I I honestly, I think I could have just cleared the day and we could have just done like a series of 8 podcasts just on this topic. But what I wanted to ask you was, if someone is I was going to say, when you go into a supermarket, and this is why it is worth the investment, is like, let's take Dr. Feelgood. Like, there are so many other different ice blocks and things like that, and they did set themselves apart from the fact that their product was different. Like, the product itself was different. But you don't know that when you're actually just reaching for something in the supermarket thing. The reason it worked is you're like, what's this jazzy 70s type experience? I remember, and then you go, I remember being, you know, in the summer, and this feels like the summer of love, or this feels like groovy, and it felt happy. Reach for it, pick it up. Ah, that's interesting. And that's what packaging is meant to do, isn't it? It
is very much like that.
On a supermarket. Yeah.
If you can imagine, like, a supermarket aisle is pretty much the same as going down a motorway. As a marketer, you're probably aware that, you know the saying about a billboard is you have about 5 seconds to get somebody's attention. So technically on a billboard, and I've done a lot of billboards in my time working for the radio, and that you can really only have 5 elements on a billboard, because and that includes your words. So the same thing as in a supermarket. You go into a supermarket, you're tired, you've got a list, you know, you might be scrambling around with a kid. There's a lot of distraction that goes on when people are shopping. You've also got to contend with consumer loyalty, right? With the brands and things that people have used Colgate for their lives because that's just all they've used.
And it's habit, right? You've got to be able to break the habit.
And so there's a lot of psychology which goes into packaging, and that's why I think there's a lot of success in the brands that I work with, because I work from a minimalist perspective. We put things on, nothing goes onto my packaging that doesn't have a reason for being there. From whether it's the color, whether it's the wording and things like that. And there's hierarchy as well. So if you're a supplement brand that's got, I don't know, say some kind of bovine collagen in it, then the most important thing that you're going to say is collagen.
Yes.
Because collagen is the big thing.
People know that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really the difference is if you are starting out and you're going to do things yourself, I encourage you to go and look in a supermarket and in your category and in everywhere else, and pick out the things which people talk about and what is the biggest text on that packaging, and then you have to go, what's the biggest text going to be on mine?
I love that. You could take photos almost. You could actually go through and take photos and then have a look and go, actually, that's what's actually going through something and taking photos of, and this could be something that people could do if they're trying to work out their style, I guess, too, or what they like, is go through a supermarket and literally take photos of every package that they responded to, even if it's not in their category.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And that's what I encourage people to do when we do a mood board. I say to people, don't just look at your category, go and look at things that you like. Is it, did you see a pair of shoes that you liked on Instagram the other day and you love that color? Great. That's good. Because that's all your psychology, right? That's like things that come to play. So, there are lots of, there's just so much.
I know. I am going to have to get you back on again. I think we should do another session. Like I won't make you wait like Natalie for like 100 sessions, but I think because I've got Natalie coming on, and I said to you before, I just realized I haven't refreshed recently. Natalie Coomer's coming on in a couple of episodes time, and I had her on episode 5, and I've asked her to come back for the 100th episode. But I think I'm going to have to get you to come back too, Laura, because this has just been like so wonderfully beautiful, and it's an area that I don't personally know a lot about. I've worked with people in the FMCG space. I've put them in, told them to go and get help from people like you, and I've helped in that marketing side in terms of like their socials and those sort of things, but I haven't, this is something I don't know a lot about, so I loved every moment.
Thank you. I any opportunity that I get to chat packaging is great, and I think my husband gets sick of me talking about it now, so.
Oh yeah, no, I feel that. So if people do want to get hold of you and Creative Jam, what do they do? Like, where do they find you?
Well, there's 2 things you can do. The first thing I suggest that you do is you go to our website and have a look either on the About Us or the Process page, and there's an awesome guide which I have created, and you can download it.
Lead generation, love you.
Yes, indeed. And so on that guide, there's a couple of hero stories from some of my clients. There's some there's actually a process in there on who to engage and when, which is really valuable.
Fantastic.
There's also a little bit about how to take your own product photos, and so because I'm all about passing the power to people for their own brands, so I suggest that you go and download that and have a really good read of it. And if you find it overwhelming, good, you should, because there's a lot in it, but find it overwhelming in a good way. And if you're still excited after reading it, if you're more excited, then just flick me an email. Most of the time, if people download the guide, I'll go and have a little bit of a sneaky look at their thing, and then you'll get a personal email from me anyway, because I just like to talk to people about stuff. So, but otherwise, you can email me, laura@creativejam.co.nz. I'd love to have a chat with anyone about any kind of product.
You've been an absolute gem. Thank you so much. I feel like I've got another podcast and a few other things to do today, but I feel like my day's already been made. So
I'm so glad, mine too.
It's been absolutely,
and it's Friday, so it's great.
And it's Friday, so win-win. Have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for being part of the show.
Oh, you're most welcome.
I don't know about you, but I learned so much in this episode. In fact, I could have spoken to Laura all day. Her depth of knowledge around this stuff is fantastic. And I think there's a lot that can be said for so many of us in marketing about how important it is that we package up what we do, whether it's with product packaging or with a brochure or even our website, and how it really shows that people pick us for those things. I often talk about how it's important to be authentic and real, and that's part of my packaging. But for you, it might be that your whole look is polished and perfect. That wouldn't work for me. Whatever it is, considering the color, the fonts, the way that your message strikes out and is clear is so important. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. We've got a couple, I've linked them in the show notes, of other ones that you might enjoy if you listen to this genre. If you're thinking about moving from markets to stores, there's one around Primrose and Coach in the show notes, and Pepper and Me from Cherie Metcalf that might be helpful for you. And also I have, a couple of weeks back, there's a podcast with Annalise from Tiki Subu about how you could use someone like her as a distributor and to help you create products that are to scale. So those are really good podcasts to also listen to. And of course, if you've got any questions or you want to ask about marketing and get some support, come along and be part of our group, Map It Marketing, on Facebook. I'd love to have you in there. I love it when people say that they heard about us from the podcast. Have a great week. I'll be back next week with just me. Not just, but you know. And otherwise, I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode with Laura about product packaging and what to think about when you go into a supermarket. If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.